I'll take a minute here, and my name is Lisa Crosta with Crescent Harbor Private Wealth. This is our inaugural Crescent Connections Knowledge Bites. So we're hoping to do this every third Thursday of the month is what we're shooting for. We are a little later on this one because it was the first one. Third Thursday of the month at noon. We want to bring informative and engaging topics to our clients, prospects, and really anyone else who wants to learn. So that's the goal of our Crescent Connections. Today with me, I have Josh Varon, who is the founder of Varon Consulting. And rather than me reading his bio, I'm going to let him introduce himself.
Thank you, Lisa. Josh Varon, Varon Consulting. I've been in business operations for about 16 years. I've been in AI for a few years now. I rolled out AI to North America for a global tech company. I also run something called Adventure Days, which we can talk about at a later date. And I'm really glad to be here. So thank you for having me.
Excellent. Well, AI is the hot topic right now. So
yes.
People may know this, but I'm going to ask you first, just define AI in relatively straightforward terms for the non-technical person.
Sure. So I would say AI that we're talking about these days is really generative AI. It's not the AI that you were playing chess against a bunch of years ago. It's not even Siri, but it's more, it has this generative capability, right? So we can ask it a question and do a Google search. That's pretty easy. But we could also have it process data. We could also have it create net new things, right? I can put in, and we do that. Half my hard drive is images of unicorns at this point and mermaids because I have a 4-year-old daughter. And then I have some T-Rexes and cars and trucks for my 6-year-old son. But I can make anything their heart desires in an image in a matter of moments. So that's really what we're talking about. And obviously it has a lot of business capabilities, right?
Right.
Forecasting trends, things like that, or just compiling data, summarizing, right? There are so many things that it can do. So that's really what we're talking about these days when we talk about AI.
So we're going to get more into some examples, but what are some things behind the scenes that we may not know about where AI is affecting, stuff that we do? Just can think of a few examples.
Being targeted as consumers is certainly one of the biggest spaces, right? So all of this data that companies are collecting about you, they were manually processing that. Now they're feeding it into AI and it's taking all this information. So imagine, you shop at the Gap and you buy a shirt and a pair of pants. It used to be that the website would look at the assortment and sort of feed you what might be your next purchase. Mm-hmm. But now with AI integrated, it has so much more data that it's grabbing into that those recommendations are infinitely more accurate, right? So you have a lot of things like that. But then you have daily usage, right? I mean, you have everyone using it, right? So your creative writing, you have weird things where students are writing their essays using ChatGPT and then they're putting it in a tool to make it sound like it's not AI. Right. And on the other side, I have a friend who teaches at Harvard, and I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Oh, I go to the same tool that my intern had recommended he used to get around it. He's used." So there are all sorts of ways that it's being used these days.
So what's the difference? When we go to do a Google search, we see Gemini, Cloud is another one, and ChatGPT you go to independently. So can you differentiate them a little bit? How are they different, or how do we use them differently?
Sure. So, ChatGPT is the one that really blew up the space originally, and I would say is really still the market leader. Every time Google or one of the other companies makes an announcement, ChatGPT seems to have something that overshadows it. Google is great in that it's integrated into the whole Google ecosystem, but it's had quite a few problems, certainly in the early days with wrong information. Sometimes in my sessions, I'll talk about their early search. Someone searched, how many cigarettes should a pregnant woman smoke on a daily basis? And it said 2, right? Like, kind of a miss. So Gemini
Right.
is one that I haven't spent too much time on, but I do like that it's so embedded in the Google ecosystem.
Right.
ChatGPT is nice because it's just so far ahead of the market in many ways. They're constantly coming out with new things. I think we'll talk a little bit about its new image generation soon.
Yeah.
It also, the same company, OpenAI, launched Sora, which is really one of the bigger and better video generation tools that are out there. Claude, I think, is really good for written word. Right? They all function similarly, but Claude just, it's more human, I think, is how I would best describe it. So I really like using Claude when I'm writing or I'm doing process documentation. Perplexity is really great for research. And again, all of them are moving in the same direction and all of them have their specificities, but Perplexity is one that I'll go to if I'm doing research because it's sort of niche in the market is that it's pulling data from good sources.
Okay.
Again, ChatGPT is now doing that. ChatGPT now has deep research. So you have all the tools are moving in that direction, but those are some differences. And then you have tools that do specific things, right? There are a million of these smaller apps that just focus on one task.
Right.
And you can even build those yourself without knowing coding using ChatGPT and creating a custom GPT.
That might be above my pay grade. What's the name of the one that again you said is the with OpenAI Soro? Is it SORO?
SORA.
Okay.
And Sora is great. You can create, I think, 5 or 10-second clips these days.
Right.
I believe you still need a paid subscription at this point, but those kind of things change on a daily basis.
Right.
And then if you go to the next step, I think it's about $200 a month versus 20 or free.
Wow.
Then you get more credits to create videos. And some of the videos that are out there are just spectacular.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We'll pivot a little bit because you mentioned this before we started the call, and I saw this myself. There's definitely some things that's taking the place of experts. I recently used a video app called Momo to generate new pictures for me to use on LinkedIn. I think it's on the invite for this one because I had a couple and I was like, I keep using the same ones, and I didn't want to tell my photographer's sister I was doing that. I mean, these are not images, perfect. I'm sure there's better quality, but for LinkedIn and social media, they were perfect. So tell me about some of the ones you use that you love.
The smaller tools,
Yeah.
honestly, I feel like ChatGPT just does, like, it incorporates so many things. I'll use tools tangent. So inside of ChatGPT, you have these custom GPTs. One that I really like to use is a YouTube video summarizer. So one of the processes I have is I create content. I'll create a YouTube video. I'll upload it to YouTube. I won't fill in most of the information and I'll let it process. Then I'll take the link from the video. I'll put it back into this ChatGPT YouTube video summarizer and I'll ask it to do multiple tasks in one shot. So I'll say, now that you've watched the video,
Right.
Summarize the video for me. And that's my summary that I put into YouTube. I'll say, give me all the hashtags related to the video, and I'll put that into YouTube. I'll say, write a LinkedIn post to go with this video. I'll copy that. I'll throw it right into LinkedIn. And so now I've saved quite a bit of time just in that one process. So I really like that. A tool that's outside of sort of the big names that I'm starting to look at now is called Be Human. And Be Human has a few different products, but one of the products is you can either record a video yourself or upload a script and they'll have an avatar, someone else who will read your script. And you can upload a spreadsheet with people's names. And so now every video will say, hi, Lisa, blah, 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 blah. This is my offering, or hi, Michael, this is my offering. And so now you have these custom personalized videos going to your entire audience. And all you needed to do was upload the script and upload a spreadsheet with all your people.
Or
So that's another one that I'm looking at.
You could also record the video yourself and have it say,
you could
hello.
also, Yes, yes. So you can have it, you'll say hello first name, and then it'll replace first name with whoever, whatever's on that spreadsheet. So that's an interesting tool that I'm looking at now. We've looked at creating lists, right? So I work with a VA, and we've spoken about using a tool called Outscraper to create lists of people to do outreach to. But the sky is the limit with these custom tools.
Every time you see a new one, there's a new one. But the Be Human thing is fun because I've been saying I'm going to do video emails forever. And so this is to new clients or new prospects. So that's an interesting one to be able to do. That's funny. And now you use them. We've talked about this before. You use them for marketing plans, for newsletters, right? Internal documents. You even said that you could use them to create some HR stuff, right?
Yeah. So I was talking to somebody who runs an HR company, and she was saying what she would like to do is be able to create all the materials for a company, right? So your handbooks, your travel policies, your, whatever materials an HR person would typically create. And what she wanted was to have a place that everyone can go, and they don't have to read through 100 pages of documents. They could literally just type a question and say, what is the expense policy?
Okay.
And it'll pull it up and it'll link it. And so that was a custom GPT that I built. And while it sounds a little bit scary and everyone immediately jumps to, oh, I need to know how to do coding, I do not know how to code at all. I've tried a bunch of coding boot camps. It's not for me. That's not how my brain is wired. But with this, I could literally just tell it all the things I want. So I could say, I'm going to give you all these documents, review these documents. Then I'll have a space where people can just ask the questions that they want, and it'll only reference those documents, right? Because what we don't want is it's going to start pulling HR policies from the internet. That wouldn't be helpful. Right. So it has to be a closed system, right? And that's the kind of thing that you could build yourself, at least the basic version, in 15, 20 minutes, right?
Well, it'd be a way to get your employees to read some of the stuff in the employee handbook, right?
Hopefully.
Usually in the bottom drawer.
I'll tell you one smart, really early when I started with AI. I was working in this tech company, and I said, as I was doing all these AI trainings, I saw one thing that was called the gaming. It was like the gaming prompt. And so what I did is I built a game inside of ChatGPT, and I made it into a tool for the company. And the game was basically an onboarding game. So rather than go through the standard boring videos or whatever the training typically is, that's really for most people kind of terrible.
Yeah.
I built this game, and inside of the game there were questions that would basically teach the new hire all the things they needed to know. And some of them were softballs, like what's the name of the CEO of the company, right? But then there were others where it was like more training on all these HR documents, right? So what is the expense policy? Who can I contact if I need to, I have a question about my computer setup? And it had all of this built in this like fun, engaging way. And it was also connected to all of the company's database of HR documents. So that was fun. That was helpful. I think I won an award at the company for it.
And you built that without coding.
Correct.
That's
correct.
Amazing.
Yeah. I coding is not my game. Yeah.
Okay. So the AI tool I'm looking for is, well, there's a couple, but one, email management. And I saw with the latest Apple upload on Apple, the iPhone one, that they bifurcated your emails into 4 buckets. And within about a day, I was like, how to get it off, because it was, my important email was in my junk and it was all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think they figured it out. I don't know if there's a way for us to figure it out, but clients miss emails all the time because we're getting emails from most companies. It seems like daily. And I constantly unsubscribe. I constantly send things to junk, but it's still overwhelming. I don't know. Any tips in that area? This may be more of a personal problem, but I don't think I'm alone.
Yeah. So I have a couple of thoughts on this. And actually, my previous call, I was talking to someone else who works in AI and communications, actually. And I was saying that AI is fantastic. There are lots of great tools, but AI is also not the silver bullet, right? It's not going to solve everything. And, as an operations person, I look at what's the process, right? Even if it's not AI, if you have a great tool, but you're not using it, it's not helpful. And so when I look at email, I look at things like I was working with a law firm, and this lawyer was writing the same email every single day to 10 clients manually. I was like, why don't you just use canned emails, right? And so it's not an AI magic. It's just you can write out the email template and you can save it inside of your email tool, or you could save it somewhere else, but you don't need to keep writing the same email. So that's not necessarily the same thing, but there are all these efficiencies that you can find. Batching is another big one. I don't check my email constantly throughout the day. I absolutely do not have notifications popping up in the corner of my screen. That is the fastest way to burn time, because you're like, oh, what's that? What was I doing again? Wait.
Right.
And then you've burnt 30 seconds just getting back on task. A tool I used to use quite a bit, Google has sort of built this in, but a tool that I really liked and used for years is called Boomerang.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're sending 100 emails a day and you know that 5 of them you're going to need to follow up on if you don't get a reply, Boomerang is great because you could say, if I don't get a reply in 3 days, kick this email right back to me. So again, it's not an AI tool. It's just an efficiency tool, but it really works well, because then I don't need to add calendar invites and reminders, and now I have all these things. It's just literally, I know that there's a deadline at the end of the week. I know if I don't hear from this person in 2 days, I need to follow up. I don't want to have to remember to follow up. Just email, come back to me.
Right.
And then you have writing messages, right? So you have like the text generation if you're using Google, and I don't remember. It's been a while since I've used Outlook. I'm sure Outlook has something similar where it'll sort of fill in the rest of the sentence.
Oh yeah.
That's like AI-esque. But then you could also say like, hey, I just want to send a quick thank you message to Lisa. Draft that, right? And so now I have this email shorter, longer, more professional, a little more casual, So for writing emails, it's helpful. Maybe you have an email that you get that you're just not really sure how to respond, right? You're pitching someone and they threw some sort of curveball, and you're like, you could ask AI, right? And I wouldn't put client information in, but you could ask AI, like, how can I respond to this? Or you could say, give me some ideas of how to respond to it, and then take some, anything that really stands out, you could put that back into your own manually written email.
Right.
So those are some thoughts.
Those are more for going out.
It's
the coming in,
Yeah,
figuring out if
inbound.
clients got our emails. I was with my family over Easter, and I had sent an email to all of them that were clients, which was a bunch of them. And 2 of them had ended up in junk, and 2 of them got it. And it's like, ugh. And so I've been toying with sending them read receipts so I can see who's getting them. But I'm sure when we send a bunch of emails for something like an invitation, that not everybody, they don't get to everybody. And it's hard to know.
Right.
Yeah. You haven't solved that problem yet for me yet, Josh?
Haven't solved that. But I will say that if you're using like MailChimp or Constant Contact, or really any marketing automation or email server tools like that, they'll tell you your rates, right? And if you're just sending it through your Gmail or your Outlook, you're going to have less information. But if you're using a tool specifically for email or even your CRM, you'll be able to see. Yeah. And sometimes it's a matter of, again, setting up processes where you say, okay, if this email bounces, trigger me to follow up and check the email. If this email is opened, send this follow, right? So you can do a lot of automations. But again, a lot of them I would say are not necessarily tied to AI.
Yeah. So what do you think? What do you what's your most fun thing you did outside of maybe work with AI? Because you started telling me about some of your venture plans. You want to touch on them?
Oh yeah. So many fun. Like this, I just spend my day in ChatGPT these days. I figured out if I yell at my son for 20 minutes in the morning, he's still not going to put on his shoes. If I tell him, if we leave now, when we get to school, we could play with ChatGPT for 10 minutes in the car. I mean, he shows up to my room in his shoes. So certainly doing a lot of playing around with the kids and generating images. One that we were talking about before is I took a picture of the front of my house and I said, now take this picture, add a deck. Now take this picture, add some trees. And spitting image of my house. The further I went down the road, the farther it got away from it in some cases. But generally speaking, I was able to have multiple landscaping layouts for my house right in front of right there in a matter of moments.
Right.
And that's really powerful from a personal perspective. I'm like, oh, like that's a good idea. I could do that, or what would it, and you could just keep going with it, right? I could say, I like the third option, but I want to tweak it a little bit, do that. And I could say, I like the third option, now build me a schematic or put together a list of materials that I need or put together a project management timeline to build out this whole thing.
Can you change the paint color?
You could change the paint color. I did another one. I did another one just now. I'm going to hopefully be working with some retail AI association. And so I found a stock image of a man, and then I went to the Gap's website. I took a screenshot of one of the shirts and I said, put this man in this shirt. And it did it. And then I said, actually, like, it's not the exact image. He has an undershirt on and the shirt's unbuttoned. Do that. And I said, change the color of the shirt to another color. And it did that. And then I said, now, right, and this is where it's really big for retailers, right? They could build a tool like this very quickly, where you have this try on, where you have this, how would I look? But then it's, give me 3 different outfits with links that are all from the Gap, that are similar to this outfit that I just showed you. And it did that. Then I said, show me what I would look like if I was wearing outfit number 1. And it showed me that, right? So it's business, but it's also it's fun. It's just fun stuff to do.
Do you see some professionals potentially losing some work from all the way we can do all the video and the digital and the editing or any ethical considerations, I guess? It's kind of...
Yeah, so I'm working with a designer to build a landing page. He's a digital marketer, so he's doing the design and then he's going to do the build out. And I just got the idea, like, what if I did it in ChatGPT? So I went into ChatGPT and I said, here's my website. Here are some images of, that make sense to me. Build me a landing page. And it gave me these great designs. And I continued to finesse and finagle and better and better and better until the end I had a pretty decent design. And I said, and I made a video about this, and I said, even though this is great, I still hired somebody to do this, because even though I can technically push the buttons, I don't have that vision. That's not what I do. I'm not a creative like that. I'm an operations guy. And so the next day I actually got the design from my designer, knocked it out of the park. It was light years ahead of what I could have ever done. But there are a lot of ethical considerations, right? Let's say I went to his website and I saw a beautiful design that he did, and I took a screenshot and I threw that into ChatGPT and I said, make that design for my website. I could do that. I don't know that's what I want to be doing, right? And there are people policing this. There are entire businesses of just people going after copyright issues and then bringing it back to the people. Realistically, I'm probably not going to get in trouble, right? Like that's what it is. And so I'm actually going to be doing a roundtable with an IP lawyer and my designer talking about considerations of all of these things. But to the question, are people going to lose their jobs? Yes. If you're in the stock footage industry, you should probably consider a new job, right? Sora has come out. You can make 5 and 10-second video clips. There are plenty of other tools that you can make video clips. Yeah. The film industry is going to change immensely, whether it's by the end of this year or by the end of next year. It's already happening.
Yeah.
But you also have, I did professional development for the local school district, and everyone said, are we going to lose our jobs? And I said, it's not like that. You can create lesson plans really quickly. You can create lesson plans for your entire class and a few kids who are a little bit behind, and it'll cost you the same amount of time instead of having to redo everything. But I'm not a teacher. I'm not an educator by profession. I don't know all the terminology. I don't know, like, oh, we want a lesson plan that fits X, Y, and Z modality. I don't know what that is. But if you tell me about it, we can certainly build it out and it'll be great.
Right.
So I think a lot of people still don't need to worry, but consider your competition in every industry. If it's you versus someone with a comparable resume who also knows how to use AI, you're probably not going to get that job.
Right.
So,
Right. Well, let's finish up. I'd like to keep it to about a half an hour, but I want to ask you with
Mhm.
that, what are you most excited about going forward in the next maybe 5 years? It doesn't have to be possible. Just what would you be most excited about in your space?
uh,
I didn't prep
I'm
you with this
excited to be
question.
doing this work.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm excited to be doing this work because I get to be a magician every day. I get to show people how they and it's not just being a magician, right? Wow, look at this amazing thing that we could do, but it's also I'm having an impact on people's lives. Like if you can cut out of work an hour early because you are way more efficient, great. Like go to that ball game. That's what I want to see. I want to see this as a tool to save time. So yeah, you have a little bit more time to work on your business, but also save time so you can go and live your life. So the tools they're going to continue evolving, but I think I hope people are having fun with this. It's not just about efficiency and productivity and how much more can we do. Those are important, but I think the fun aspect of it and the creative aspect of it really is what I'm excited about.
That's great. Well, we will wrap it there. Thank you.